Hey, what's up, everybody? Your favorite teacher's back. We have notes today. No big surprise. We won't have notes next week, I promise. So let's do this. These are conditional statements and counterexamples. And actually, this section is a little bit easier than the last two we've done. Conditional statement, a couple of things about this. It does have two parts. There's a hypothesis and a conclusion. And a conditional statement usually is written in an if-then statement. If not, we will be writing it in if-then statement. And then the hypothesis is always after if or attached to if. And then the conclusion always comes after then. Okay? And here's like an if-then statement. If hypothesis, then conclusion. Something like, if I'm at work, then I'm awake. That's not necessarily true, but that's a conditional statement. Okay. And then the converse statement, it's easy. It's a statement formed by switching the hypothesis and the conclusion of a conditional statement. So you would take these two and then just switch them. Okay. A second ago, I said, if I'm awake, then I'm at school. So the converse of that would be, if I'm at school, then I'm awake. If I'm awake, then I'm at school. If I'm at school, then I'm awake. Yeah, it's when they switch. You'll see in the examples. Okay. And then the last or the third definition we have here, it's a counterexample. And a counterexample is like a specific case or a statement that preserves the hypothesis but contradicts the conclusion. Okay. Like the statement, the statement I said just a second ago. If I'm at school, then I'm awake. Well, counterexample could be the one day when I fell asleep in class, but I was on my prep period though. Okay. So anyway, those are the three definitions for this section. It's not too bad. It is easier than what we've gone over. So pause it right now so you can copy those. And then let's do some examples. So here's some examples. Let's see. I'll use red. It says identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of each statement. Then find or write the converse of each statement. Okay? And again, the hypothesis is always after if. Okay, that's what I just wrote down over here on the left-hand side. And then the conclusion is always after then. So the hypothesis here would be a student stays up late. Okay, and the conclusion would be they will be sleepy for class. And then the converse is what you get when you switch these two. Okay? So if I switch them, it would look like this. Now I'm not going to write it like you do have to adjust the wording a little bit just so it makes sense. Because I'm not going to say if they will be sleepy for class, then a student stays up. I'm going to change the wording a little bit and say let's say if a student is sleepy for class, then let's just say they stay up late or stayed up late. Okay. So all it is taking the original conditional statement and switching the conclusion with the hypothesis. Okay. Hopefully that's not too blurry. It looks a little blurry on my end. Hopefully that's not too blurry. So that one was that was a long statement. Here's a little bit shorter one. So the conditional statement says, if it lays eggs, then it is a chicken. Okay, so the hypothesis again is everything after if. It lays eggs. And the conclusion is everything after then. It is a chicken. And the converse is when you switch these two. So if it is a chicken, so this one we don't have to change too much. We can just switch them as is. If it is a chicken, then it lays eggs. Yeah, I think so. That's true. So there you go. So that's the hypothesis, conclusion, converse. And again, it's not too difficult. You should be able to do those. But there is one more thing, the counterexample. Let's look at the counterexample. Okay. So pause this right now if you need time to copy it. But I'm gonna come down a little bit and get the converse examples. So this one says determine, I should say if, determine if the converse from above, determine if the converses from above are true or false. If false, find a counterexample. I didn't like that if. There you go. Determine if the converses from above are true or false. If false, find a counterexample. Okay. So let's do this one. Let's do B first, the B converse. If it is a chicken, then it lays eggs. I think that's true. Right? Because remember, the counterexample says it's like it keeps the hypothesis true, but it contradicts the conclusion. Okay? So this one would be true. And then let's go look at this one up here. So this one says, if a student is sleepy for class, then they stayed up late. Okay. So that's not necessarily true. And I'll give you an example. And this is the counterexample. Okay. The counterexample would be a student who wakes up real early. Okay. So if a student wakes up early, so here's the counterexample. A student is sleepy for class, right? This part is true, but because he woke up extra early, like 3 o'clock in the morning early, okay? So then oh, I forgot to put false. So this one could be false. This one could be false because, you know what? If I wake up like at 3 o'clock in the morning and then show up to class, you believe me, I'm gonna be sleepy. Okay. But also it's true if you stay up late, but it's not always true. It's not necessarily true. Okay. So that's how counterexamples work. So you would just say, okay, hey, this is false, and then you have to say something that like kind of keeps this true, but it contradicts this. Okay. So I wrote down a student is sleepy for class, which is true for the hypothesis, but then I put because he woke up extra early, but it contradicts this part that says they stayed up late. Let me move that. Okay. I'll give you another quick example of a counterexample for this one. This original statement says, if it lays eggs, then it's a chicken. Well, that's not always true, okay? An example of that would be a snake. a snake lays eggs and it's not a chicken. Okay, that would be a counterexample to this statement. The converse is true. If it's a chicken, then it lays eggs, but the original statement is not true. Okay, so copy that, pause that, and we're done. Let's do this.